On today's Starting Nine, Snake and Carl sit down to preview the World Series featuring the Philadelphia Fighting Phillies and the Houston Astros. It's a matchup for the ages. A team with all the momentum versus one of the best teams on paper we've ever seen. Game 1 proves to be ferocious. Aaron Nola versus Justin Verlander. There's tons of storylines, World Series picks, predictions, analysis, and so much more. It's a great day for Starting Nine. Let's get into it.
Action! Welcome back to Starting Nine. Carl here in Chicago, Snake in Austin, and we are getting ready. This is a huge episode, as we alluded to in the intro, with World Series.
Yeah, just two experts here battling it out, breaking this thing down better than anybody could possibly do that has any ties to the sport. So, stay locked in with us. Like, you're not going to hear this shit anywhere else. And there's a lot of people breaking stuff down and just copying and pasting. No, this is proprietary information. So listen up, okay?
You played for the Phillies. I've watched the Phillies my whole life. I know a ton about the Astros. We've been talking and hyping this matchup up for a lot of reasons over the last week or so, and for good reasons.
Yeah, I mean, we would find a way to make it exciting, and it would be exciting if it were two other teams, but it just seems like the best storyline. And maybe we're just saying that because it's the teams we got, but it's the number one seed on the National League side or the American League side. And then a team that was, lucky to get in. No, I don't want to say lucky, but because of the recent addition of the third wild card spot, that's what allowed the Phillies to get in. If that wasn't here, they'd be at home, and we might be seeing, the Padres in this situation. So very unique situation. The Phillies are probably the hottest team, and that's debatable. I mean, the Astros are undefeated in the postseason, but momentum-wise and what they've been able to do against some really, really good teams, starting with the St. Louis Cardinals all the way through to defeating the Padres, just a really cool story. The cliche David and Goliath, but that's what it feels like. It really does.
So they're completely different teams, but I do get the vibe of the San Francisco Giants, 3 World Series winners they had in the early 2010s, where it's this team that on paper you can look at others and just be like, well, they're faulty here, there's a weakness here. And then that's just running up against momentum. Now, obviously, the Giants capitalized on having some of the best pitching at the time, and they won games completely different. But my point is, you're going up against this Astros team that is perfect in all phases, and on the opposite end is the Phillies, and with the momentum and kind of we really shouldn't even be here. Now I know they believe it, but just that sense from the outside that, man, these guys, they're playing with house money. They don't give a fuck. They love each other. You watch that post-game celebration. It's different when the Astros have been to the World Series X amount of times over the last 6 years. But for the Phillies to bond together like that, and especially with firing Girardi in the middle of the season, and we've talked before in the show, one of my favorite sentiments you bring up is like when the players aren't playing well and you see like a hitting coach get fired. Different circumstance with the manager, but it has to be a shock to the player system when they come in. Like, we're so bad they fired Joey. Let's get it. Now, a bunch of other stuff works in that direction too. Rob Thompson's been a gangster. He's awesome. They're playing. They love playing for him. You could just see it and feel it. But I'm sure during when that was going down, right, those players that's a jolt when they fire the manager. Like shocking jolt.
I think usually, you rarely see, firing in any sense kind of translate so dramatically like it has for the Philadelphia Phillies. Yeah, you'll see a hitting coach let go or a pitching coach, but typically things just kind of putter along, and maybe a couple guys throw a little bit better, but it usually plays out very similar. Rarely is it like, oh, the pitching coach is fired, a new guy comes in, and now all of your starters and your bullpen just start to dominate. Or, hit guys that were in the order hitting, 180, now they're hitting 340. Typically doesn't work out that way. But in this sense, I mean, you have to think that getting rid of Girardi and bringing in Tomps as the head guy, the interim manager at first, and now they sign into a 2-year deal, had a huge play in how the Phillies have kind of transformed their season late into the regular season and now into the postseason. So like I said, I mean, typically it doesn't. You rarely see it happen like this. And yes, Thompson deserves a lot of credit, but it's like, how do you split up that credit? Like, how much credit do you give Thompson, and how much credit do you give the players, or is it just like a combination of all of that?
It's one big beautiful. It's one big beautiful uh, stew, a
It's a
potpourri of
it's a
sorts,
yeah,
a
it's a
cornucopia.
potpourri stew, smorgasbord of all sorts of things, man. But it worked out. It really worked out. Um, I guess you got to give a lot of credit to the organization and ownership for making that move when they did. And don't let's not forget the trade acquisitions that might not have been like these marquee players, these huge names, David Robertson, Noah Syndergaard, Brandon Marsh, but they all played a role. They all played a significant role in the Phillies' ability to kind of just continue to roll throughout the regular season and find their way into that third wild card spot.
So let's get into some of these specific matchups. But first, I want to thank Game Time, the exclusive ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. If you haven't given Game Time a shot yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. We've had tons of Barstool fans using it, hitting us up on social, telling us about all the great deals they're getting. I use Game Time when I went to the game with Smitty. I'll be using the Game Time app a little bit later for this World Series. I'll be using the Game Time app on Sunday when I go to the Chicago Bears game in Dallas. I've been using Game Time all year. You guys have been hearing about it all year. I hope you guys are using Game Time too because it's so easy to use. Amazing deals. The fastest growing ticket app in the US. You're going to love it. All you guys have to do is just download the Game Time app, which is very easy. If you're listening to this podcast, I can assure you you have the requisite intelligence to download the Game Time app. So download it, go to the account tab to create a login and redeem code starting 9 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms may apply. Download Game Time, last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. That's promo code starting 9 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms may apply. Check out Game Time. Okay, Aaron Nola announces a game one starter against Justin Verlander, which means Zach Wheeler will be taking the mound in game two,
Yeah.
presumably against Valdez, I believe.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. Yeah. And look,
Heavyweight fights, man.
super heavyweight fights. And we were talking about this before the show. How cool is it that these two teams played against each other the very last series of the regular season, very beginning of October in Houston, and Nola, game one, pitched against Lance McCullers. Game two was Justin Verlander versus Suarez, and then the Astros won 2 out of 3 in the series. They split the first two. Astros won the third game, but the starter was I believe they used an opener. I think Falter might have pitched an inning, and then um, a young guy, lefty, that's not on the World Series roster, didn't throw the ball very well. So you can, I don't want to say you can throw that out completely, but from the Phillies pitching perspective, I don't think that plays much of a role in the carryover for the World Series. But Valdez, Framber did throw game three. He threw very well. He threw 5 innings, gave up 2 hits, no runs, a walk with 10 punch outs. So if you go to the matchup, Nola and Verlander, game one, here's why. Here's the main reason I think it's not a bad idea to throw Nola instead of Wheeler, even though Wheeler is the hottest starting pitcher in all of the postseason. Nola's start in game one against Houston, that last series of the regular season, he went 6 2/3 perfect innings before giving up a couple hits, and then coming out of the game. So they like that matchup. And before even kind of going back and analyzing that series, kind of breaking it down a little bit, I was like, thinking to myself, you have to get Wheeler on the mound as much as humanly possible in this series. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. But I know that the Phillies have just as much trust and faith in Aaron Nola as they do Zach Wheeler, as they should. But if you just kind of if you're going off the eyeball test, I think there's a vast majority of people out there that would say Nola is the obvious answer for game one, just because you can get him back on 3 days rest if you need, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, so I guess that's where I was going to say is, do you see this as Nola then being next available for Game 4, or is it more traditionally? Because that's what the Indians did. Now Guardians against you guys 1-4-7 for Kluber, whereas it went Lester 1-5, you 2-6, Hendricks 3-7.
Yeah, and that's my point. So if Wheeler were to throw game one, you could potentially get him in 3 starts of the World
Yeah,
Series.
but he's already made. He'd be making his. I think it's he made a start against the Cardinals, one against. So I think he's made 4 starts now, where Nola will be making his 4th start. Does that is even though it's a small amount, Nola's made 3 starts, Wheeler's made 4. Does that
Right.
matter?
At this point in the season, no. No, I mean, what's one more start? When you're at or around 200 innings, 215 innings. No, absolutely not. They're that's kind of the ultimate deciding factor for me, is that if I start Wheeler game one, and I think this, we'll talk about our series prediction, but I think this series is going to go a long, long way, and I want to get him on the mound as much as possible. That's the way I would look at it. Um, but then again, I mean, Nola's not a bad guy to have for 3 starts if it happens to go 7 games either.
So we should highlight a couple other things I want to point out, because I love that before we recorded the show and you brought that up, you're like, these guys played each other 3 times, 2 very close games in the series. Verlander had 5 innings of no hit ball with a walk and 10 punchies, as you guys say. 10 punchies against the Phillies. I think that was game 2 of the series.
Game
And
two, yeah.
yeah, so Ranger didn't look that great. Now, a couple
No.
things where my head's at. You brought up, I want to get his name right. I think it was Michael Placermeyer. Mike
Yes.
Placermeyer.
Yes.
Okay, so Michael Plassmeyer is the guy who pitched Game 3. This may seem insignificant to some, but we know how advanced the Houston Astros are with their scouting and their preparation. And there is a sense to me where, even though Aaron Nola threw wonderfully against them, they're going to be so much better prepared to face him. Now, he can still obviously go out and shove, because we're talking about world-class pitching here. But there's something about where, like, this Michael Plassmeyer guy threw 6 kind of mop up innings, and now he's not on the roster. That's kind of like an advantage to me with the Phillies, where they didn't
Sure.
see those 6 innings could have been Sir Anthony Dominguez. It could have been Rangers, or I mean, and that couldn't have been Ranger Suarez. It could have been Brogdon. It could have been uh, help me out here, pal. It could have been fucking I can't say
It could have
Balani.
Bilotti. Yeah, it could have been yeah, you said Brogdon. It could have been Syndergaard. I mean, Alvarado did get an inning in that series, maybe two. I know. But yeah, you're right. I mean, those 6 innings were innings that the Astros could have seen 3 or 4 of their arms that they're going to have on their World Series roster, and that's not the case. But I do agree with you that the Astros will be a little bit better prepared for Nola, especially the guys that were seeing him for the first time in that series at the very beginning of October, at the end of the regular season. So, um, but yeah, I mean, it's somewhat recent history, but again, like, it's not like it was 4 or 5 days ago. It's, a little bit of time has gone by. They've seen a lot of arms since then. But yeah, I mean, these guys are going to be well studied. You see in between innings or after at bats, what do guys do? They go directly to the iPad. They watch the at bat, the pitch sequencing. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's nonstop. It's like half of the dugout is on an iPad, but for good reason. Taking advantage of the technology. And when a guy's up in the bullpen, and pinch hitters are being considered to pinch hit. Guys are looking at previous at bats against them that they faced this guy, or how they pitch guys just like them. So there's absolutely no secrets.
Let's talk a little bit about Nolan versus Verlander here, because I know it's like something very easy for us to know the difference. You just say the names. I know exactly what type of game Verlander is going to pitch versus Nola. But I do think that's a unique thing. And I'm interested if we just high level, Aaron Nola takes the mound. Just quick, like, scouting report on his stuff. Heavy sinker. What's he do?
Well, what Nola did this year, that's kind of taken him into another level. Not not that his numbers are like blowing numbers out of the water that he's had before. I don't. I'd have to look up his stats, but one thing that he's used to give himself another look is a cutter. Like he's never really showcased the cutter before. He's starting to throw it. He started to throw it a lot this year, and that's just another weapon that he's added to his repertoire, that makes him that much more difficult to eliminate pitches. I mean, he's
And it
always
works. His cutter
it's
works
going.
off the fastball. How does
It
the cutter
works
work
off.
off the
It works off
fastball?
the fastball, and also it can work off the curveball as well because. Um, you're typically used to seeing him with the heavy sinker, the really good curveball that's got a very unique shape to it because of his arm slot and where he releases it, and the really good changeup that he can throw in any counts, underneath the zone, on the corners, in the strike zone for quality strikes when he needs to early in the count. um, and it's a little bit different look. And the cutter is, I would say some people might say the changeup. I think the cutter is the hardest pitch to recognize, the really good ones, because they get to about 3, 4, 5 feet from home plate, and then they just take a left turn or a right turn if you're a left-handed pitcher. Your brain tells you fastball, just like the changeup will, and then before you realize it, you've already started your swing and you're out front, or you're a little late, or you swing and miss. So that give him a lot of credit, and the people around him that have worked with him on that cutter, um, because it's like I said, when you have another weapon, not only something that you'll throw and show the offense, but something you can actually use effectively to get really big outs, to get outs early in the count, swings and misses, weak contact. But yes, that's the difference you're going to see in Nola, if you haven't already seen it, is the addition of the cutter combined with his really really uh, uh, great ability to throw that sinker where he wants. His starting point is very consistent. He knows where he needs to get that thing to start to end up on the corners, both glove side and arm side. He can throw it down, he can throw it up. And then, like I said before, he's just got a tremendous feel for his changeup. He can throw it in any count. And when a guy will throw multiple breaking balls in any count, I mean, you can't eliminate pitches. That's why he's so hard to square up.
I think it's unique for Aaron Nola, even though he was such a high draft pick, seventh overall in 2014, comes into the league with such like a storied background of being this extremely durable, gritty, tough LSU Friday night guy. His brother was in the program. We saw that story with Austin with the Padres. But kind of following Aaron Nola, and when he got to the big leagues when they drafted him, the big scouting report or the big rub with Nola was his pitch ability is off the charts. Like this guy is so comfortable on a mound, he's going to have feel for a changeup, fields his position, holds his runners, keeps the ball down, can change speeds, move the ball around. And then the big question was like, he's clearly a top prospect and top pick because you can draft him, you can instantly put him into your rotation. I think he very quickly got to the big leagues and really hasn't struggled at all. Then the question with Aaron Nola was just a matter of how good can he be? Like he had the makeup when he got drafted, and where they were like, this guy's at worst, you can pencil this guy in to be like a number 3, middle of your rotation, count on this guy. He's going to give you great season after great season, which when you're drafting pitchers and you're developing pitching, like that's such an important component that you can project and be consistent with it. And then so the question with Nola is like, how good can he be? Well, how nasty can he get once he gets there? They know he can pitch. They know he can like be in the zone and mix everything. It's just like how much better will he be able to get his stuff? So it's so cool to sit here and talk as we get in the World Series. He's taking game 1 against Verlander. I mean, there ain't no doubt that he matches up toe to toe with Justin Verlander. But when they drafted him 7th overall in 2014, the guy they had, it was like, we think he could get to that point. That's going to be up to him. We just know he's good enough to pitch in an MLB rotation. So all the credit to Nola. It's been a treat to follow a guy's career because the pitchability, I love that word. He's got high. You just see that guy like that's a fucking pitcher.
Yeah. Well, Nola he's one of the guys that, has maximized his ceiling, or that will. Does that make sense? Like there's always guys
Yes,
that,
you said that much better than I did.
yes, there's guys that you're like, oh, this guy, anytime someone's drafted, this guy has the potential to be an ace, a top of the rotation starter. He'll fill out. His arm strength will increase a little bit. Um, he might add some weight to his frame, yada yada. And so, like, it could be a guy who could be a number 5 starter, and maybe he reaches the potential of being a number 1 starter. Aaron Nola, isn't going to throw any harder than he currently does. He's a 91 to 96 guy. He's been that his entire career. He's not going to get any bigger. I mean, he is who he is now. You could pencil Aaron Nola in for a 2.25 to a 3.4 every single season. Not that he's not capable of putting up an ERA under 2, but my point is, like, he's one of those guys, and this is a credit to him and his work ethic and his character. He's one of those guys that has reached his ceiling. And that's not a knock. That's not saying he can't get any better, because I think that his pitchability is just so close to maxed out. And like with the addition of the cutter, like now it's probably as high as it's going to get. And that's amazing, because most guys are like, oh, he never reached his potential. You know what I mean? And you can't say that about Aaron Nola. And the fact that when he was at LSU, you could like Mike Leake, from Arizona State.
One of
You
my
take him,
all-time favorite
yeah,
players. Yes.
you take him out of college, and it's like, okay, this guy could be our number 4 starter today. Aaron Nola is that guy. And again, this is not a knock on him saying like he's reached his ceiling. That's a seriously high compliment. And it just shows you the kind of guy he is, his makeup, his work ethic. Like I said before, he's got three seasons of 200 plus innings. He's got a couple more that he got close. This guy's going to be healthy. He's durable. And like I said, you pencil him in for a low to mid 2 to a low to mid 3. And if he has 6 or 7 more years just like that, we're looking back at a really, really impressive career.
I want to do Verlander. I love all that. Amazing insight. I should say that first. Thank you. To former teammate of yours, you know him well. We talked about his routine and the preparation. I do think Verlander on the opposite side, completely different to me. But first, let's talk about a completely different way for you guys to take care of your weeknight dinners. That's falling in full swing. We got to talk to you guys about Every Plate. I said it falls in full swing. Weeknight dinners is easier than ever with Every Plate, America's best value meal kit. When your days get jam-packed, Every Plate will help you get delicious meals on the table without breaking the bank. You can skip your weekly trip to the grocery store too. Everyone's always looking forward to those cozy fall flavors, and Every Plate delivers with seasonal favorites like white bean tomato stew with feta and garlic toast, and turkey shepherd's pie topped with garlic mashed potatoes. Change things up as often as you want. Choose between 21 recipes that change each week and swap proteins and sides to your liking. Every Plate is the easiest way to get more bang for your buck. One meal from Every Plate is just $4.99. Buying groceries will cost you 25% more. We've talked about this time and again, guys. Save yourself time and again. Get out of the grocery store. Go to everyplate.com. Starting $149, you get your first box for just $1.49 per meal by going to everyplate.com. Enter code STARTING 149. That's code starting 149 at everyplate.com. Get out of the grocery store. Fall's here. Go get some good fall flavors. Okay, we're gonna get some good. I'm gonna get a full taste of some fall flavor at Justin Verlander on Friday night. Just
Yes, you
quick
are.
differences with him because we talked Aaron maxing out his ceiling and Verlander's doing
Well, I mean, if great transition into a guy who's maxed out his ceiling to maybe the guy who the ultimate, the poster boy for reaching his full potential. I mean, I don't think there's a guy. Yeah, there's probably a few guys you can choose out there, but the longevity, the 17, 18-year career, the MVP, the Cy Youngs, the All-Stars, 18-4 with a 1.7-ish ERA in his age 39 season. He's closer to 40 now than he is 39. Truly incredible. he had the one rough start against the Mariners. They ultimately ended up still winning that game in dramatic fashion, thanks to Yordan Alvarez. But we were talking about this before the show, and I don't. This is just a thought. I don't think it's going to happen, but at some point, and I'm not saying like he's going to diminish and with his stuff and not be able to pitch next year. I'm just saying, man, he's got to be starting to tire out a little bit. Almost 40 years old. He's thrown, you know, how many innings has he thrown this year? He's got 175 innings. 100. Is that including postseason?
No, that does not
Okay,
include
let's say
postseason. So he's probably
190.
about 190. Yeah.
190 innings, man. I mean, he's got. I know he's banged up. A lot of guys are banged up, but I can't imagine being banged up at almost 40 years old. So, are there little aches and pains? Is something going to be holding him back just a little bit? Is he going to have the bite on all of his stuff? And the answer is probably yes. Game one of the World Series in Houston, like with everything that's on the line, is probably not going to phase him whatsoever. But it's something like you kind of think about at least a little bit.
So it is. I saw when he was pitching against the Mariners, he looked like if we had to cast a movie about Justin Verlander, like Tom Hanks. He did not look. He just had that full, tired. We're talking about a guy who's probably going to win the Cy Young this year. Won the Cy Young. His last full season was 2019. Pitched a little bit 2020, 6 innings, off all last year. It was a story when they signed him. It was a story that Justin Verlander was like, "Nah, man, I'm coming back. Like, career's not over. No, I still want to pitch." If he does this, if he repeats this season 3 more times, he'll win 300 games, which is now a record people say will never be broken. I mean, he needs 56 more wins, but uh, that's a lot.
It's a
That's a
lot.
lot.
It's a
But
lot.
if
But
he's like lingering at 40, he plays next year, he wins another 17 games. It's like, hey, dude, you're 39 away.
yeah,
Do you want to do it? I don't know.
yeah.
I think that
I think it will continue, especially if he's still with the Astros. If you get to stay with a team that is as highly competitive as the Astros are, um, I mean, you just watch him pitch. Like if you didn't know who was delivering the pitches, if you just saw the ball out of hand, like, damn, is this like some number one prospect like pitching in the futures game, like, or the All American game? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's extremely electric still. So I don't think there's any question that he's still going to be able to perform and pitch for another few years. But time will tell. You never know how he's going to feel as he comes into spring training, next season, and then following that season. I mean, it doesn't get any easier. He's just, his arm was just kissed by, the gods above, and we'll see how long they want him to continue to pitch for. And hopefully he keeps going for 3 or 4 more years so he can get to 300 wins and probably be the last one to get there.
obligatory Nolan Ryan comment here. Nolan Ryan pitched 10 more seasons than Justin Verlander has right now. So just context. Anytime I find an opportunity out to just like plug a Nolan Ryan, can't believe it. Fact check there. Back to Verlander, quick though. Taking the mound game one. This is why you do it. This is why in 2020, when he's doing single leg squats or something, holding a 5 pound ball to rehab, whatever the hell he's doing, like physical trainers make you do crazy shit when you're hurt. He's got to do all that stupid exercise, rehabbing lonely, and with nothing left to prove. And he had a great press conference at the start of the postseason. And he just very simply said something to the effect of, I have this God given talent. It still works. I'd be silly not to put it to its best use.
That's extremely well said. He's got a great outlook on his career and what he wants to do and continue to accomplish while he's still in uniform. I mean, he wants he wants that jersey taken away from him. And, I love that mentality. I love that mindset. I want him to play until he physically is incapable of going out there and being competitive. Um, I think we're not going to get to see many guys like him perform for this long, ever again. And it's one of those deals where, there's records that you say, oh, they'll never be broken, and then at some point they they get surpassed. But I think in sports there are some of those like unicorn stats that potentially might never be broken. Like the number of complete games in a season or shutouts in a season. Like no one's going to throw 30 complete games anymore. And we don't have the ability to, because we don't get that. We're not pitching on 3 days rest like they used to. Um, you know, Starters are a little bit more coddled than they used to. Bullpens are much more fortified, and you got every guy's coming out throwing 94, 95 plus with two great breaking balls. So starters don't have to go that long. And no one's going to get to 300 wins. Nobody will ever have more strikeouts than Nolan Ryan, and just simply because no one will ever play that long again.
No, fuck. I mean, not for at least a couple of decades. There'd have to be some crazy, like innovation in healthcare and technology and stuff to get pitchers.
Yeah, we're recovery. It's like, a starter can like a softball pitcher, right? Like they can throw back to back days, and not be phased by it. But you're right. Unless there's some sort of monumental, advancement in recovery techniques and technology, you're just not going to see it.
So last year there were the pitching matchups for Game 1. I think it was like Charlie Morton versus Framber Valdez. Charlie Morton got hurt. Framber Valdez got shelled. We should talk just for a second. Framber Valdez had a very bad World Series last year. 2 very bad starts. And for as good as he comes into the series, and me as an outsider, I'd say, man, this guy's ready to roll. This guy's is dominant. The power sinker's ready to go. But now you look back at like his World Series games last year. Is any of that a chance to linger? Is there any level where it's like, well, now it's the World Series and it's so much more serious? Is there any chance that this guy's thinking like, man, last year I let us down? Because they did lose last year, and if he wins one of his 2 starts, it's different. Do you think Framber Valdez has been walking around that baggage?
No, I don't think so. Maybe if you were a starter on a team that like that was your only opportunity to ever get to the postseason, and you took a shit and didn't perform well. But I mean, how many times has he pitched in the postseason? How many times has he pitched in huge, meaningful games and had a lot of success? So I'm almost certain that he's been able to put that stuff behind him. And if you look at the way he threw, this season, just from a large sample size. I mean, how many consecutive quality starts did he have in a row to finish the year? It was like
Oh yeah, it was
26 or
crazy.
something like that, something wild. So I mean, he's got to be feeling really good about himself, as he should. And just what he can rely on is just that heavy sinker. I mean, it's not like if you don't have command of a four-seam fastball, and you're throwing 92, 93 miles an hour, like you're going to have a tough day. You're going to have a tough time out there, especially against a lineup like the Phillies. But he's got a weapon that's unlike, a lot of other guys. There's not many left-handed starters that have a sinker like he does. So you have to find a tremendous amount of comfort in knowing you harness, a pitch that's effective. So no, I don't think those World Series starts are going to affect him much. I think he's going to come out and pitch just like he was throughout pretty much the entirety of the regular season.
Yeah, he does have a full postseason body of work. He's made 10 starts. If you take out those 2 tough World Series starts last year, it's a 2.5 ERA and like 50 innings. With him, it's like a 3.8. I like taking out outliers. I like take away your 2 best games, take away your 2 worst games. You're going to get a much better representation of the pitcher. But just by and large, from going from one postseason to the next, the 2020 postseason, very weird. And that's for a lot of obvious reasons that we don't need to get into. It just felt like from the landscape of history, looking back, going back to the most recent one, 2021 between the Braves and the Astros, not great starting pitching performances to start that series deep into the bullpens. A lot of unsung heroes kind of deep in the bench. You're seeing guys like Adam Duvall and Jorge Soler pop up. So I think it'd be good to do a little preview in mind. I tease that up because I'd like to see some good starting pitching. I should have said that. I'm hopeful going into this World Series that we've got It's both games, seventh inning, and the unders hit. We're under 5.5 runs. It's 2-2. It's 3-2, 1-0. That to me is significantly better. I don't want to see bullpen changes early. I want to see these starting pitchers go out there and shove a little bit.
Yes, I agree.
So some previews, some predictions. Keep track. See how wrong we are. Do we
Yeah,
have?
yeah.
Let's start here. Let's just do winners. Do you have a winner?
I do. I think I'm going with the Phillies. I'm going to ride with my boys. I'm going with the Phillies to take this down in 7 games. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that that's going to go at least 6 games. And I say that selfishly because I want to see a deep series. I want to see a highly competitive series with some power, with some incredible starting performances, with some huge outs being recorded by uh, both very good bullpens in high leverage situations with a lot on the line, winning run, tying run at the plate, sort of stuff. So all of the variables and all of the ingredients that you look for. In a great World Series, I think it's just inevitable. We're going to see that. So I do like the Phillies to win the series, and I think it goes. I think it goes the distance. I really do.
Would be great. I'll
Wouldn't it?
take that. I
Yeah,
would like if I had to
yeah.
pick one thing, I would pick that. My prediction: the Astros are 7-0 coming to the World Series. I don't know if we've seen an 11-0 before. It's been since 2005 when the White Sox went 11-1. A good reminder to you guys out there: the White Sox did win a World Series before. It seems like everyone else forgot about that. I do think the Astros win this. I think they win it in 5 games. I think one of the games is kind of a slap around fest. I think there's 4 extremely close games. The thing about the Astros is they've already been chasing in this postseason. They don't roll into this World Series a cocky 7-0. They roll into this World Series like a disciplined, prepared, had to battle back 7-0, had to go into Yankee Stadium 7-0, had to come back against the Mariners, play an 18-inning game, not give up a fucking run 7-0 in the postseason. Jose Altuve was not very good in the ALCS. That can't happen. That's not going to happen. It could. It very well could because it's
It could,
baseball.
and they would still be fine, which is scary. Uh, just the emergence of Pena has been incredible with Chaz McCormick. Um, they're so well balanced. They're so strong, start to finish. That if one or two of their guys, isn't playing up to their potential, like it almost doesn't even matter. And that's not to say that it can't happen to where they're going to need a big hit from Altuve, um, or one of their other guys, Tucker or Bregman in a big situation. They might not get it because that's just baseball. But history tells us that when they're called upon, they deliver. They deliver so very often, and you kind of get used to it. You really do for a lot of good reasons and reasons that the Astros have given us based on their historical performances over the past 6 or 7 years. So it is very difficult to see the Phillies winning the series. But man, I hope it goes more than 5 games.
But if Nolan and Wheeler both make 2 starts, and if one of Ranger Suarez's 2 starts is outstanding like it can be, you're talking about 5 presumably very good pitching performances that you could bank on in 6 games, and then you could roll into a 7th game and just leave it all out there. I do got more predictions, but here's a prediction that's 100% accurate, and it's time to simplify your wardrobe, guys. 100% guaranteed you got to simplify the wardrobe. We got to talk doer G's. The way you dress, let's just simplify everything. Doer sets out to create versatile staple items that can travel from a hike to work and even out to dinner. I can attest to that personally. Less in the closet means less in the landfill, and less time debating what to wear. It means more time enjoying those adventures. Honestly, everybody knows this about me in Barstool, Chicago. I am a very simple wardrobe person. I like to minimize as many decisions as possible. There's nothing worse than when you get up in the morning, you're like, what should I wear? The idea of like, what do I wear today has plagued me in my early adulthood. I've solved that problem. I've simplified everything. I got a couple of core key pieces, and I'll tell you from the waist, I love Doer performance denim, fabric stretches for max comfort. You got butt cheeks like mine, look like 2 tectonic plates shifting prehistoric times, creating what we would know as the Grand Canyon. Just a big muscle mass. You need to have the the stretchy Max Comfort fabric. Also, the no sweat jogger. If you're not wearing joggers, newsflash, guys, they're hot. They're in. The reason she didn't text you back, you're not wearing joggers. Stretchy and comfortable, made with Tencel, which is ultralight, moisture wicking, and antibacterial. Zipper thigh pocket for important items. Discover the lightweight luxury of performance naturals, whether you're a corporate climber or a mountain climber. By the way, best tagline I read in ad reads in this job. I'm going to say this again. Whether you're a corporate climber or a mountain climber, take 15% off online at shopdoer.com or in store using code STARTING. Just starting 15% off ShopDoer. I'm accepting testimonials. You got a testimonial about Doer, send it to me. I'll read it next time Doer's got an error. I'll give you a shout out. You got a charity or like a little brother or something. Hey, Gary, Bob's at college. He misses you. He's wearing ShopDoer. Go to shopdoer.com, take 15% off using promo code STARTING. Back to predictions. Okay, prediction-wise. MVP, I'm just going to say Kyle Tucker because I'm riding with the Astros.
Yeah,
and the reason I like Kyle Tucker, he's hitting sixth in this lineup. Fifth, sixth. Guys are on base. A lot of right-handed pitching he's going to see.
I have a couple. I want to pick a starting pitcher, but I just think typically it goes to a position player. My first thought was Aaron Nola, but I think the easy answer is Bryce Harper. I'm going to go with Rhys Hoskins. I think he has at least a couple big homers in the series with guys on base. I love his character, his makeup, his competitive nature. I think he has a big series for the Phillies.
I like that. I need some more bat spikes. I love his stat line from the NLCS too. I think he was like 4 for 14 with 4 bombs.
Yeah, I mean he doesn't miss a heater. Like if I don't think I've seen a guy that can turn on a fastball just as consistently as he does, and he sells out for the heater. And if he gets one in the right spot, man, he does not miss.
5th rounder, Sacramento State. I'm compelled to now. Like this isn't Mississippi State first round. Like he looks like he would be one of those SEC corner infield donkeys, but no, this is just a Sacramento State guy who just hits nukes.
Sac State, yeah, you're right. He does. He looks like he's a guy from like Ole Miss or Arkansas or Bama, something like that.
Reese.
Yeah.
It's a good baseball name too. We got away from that. I like to celebrate good baseball names. Rhys Hoskins. They have a bunch of them. Bunch of good-looking ball players. There's another one on the Phillies. I'm going to give my unsung hero for the World Series to a guy on the Phillies. I haven't looked up the splits. This is bad on me, but he's seen the Astros more than anybody else in that dugout. I think it's Brandon Marsh. I think Brandon Marsh comes into this with like, hey, guys.
Yeah, you're right. He's got to have the most history against those guys, for sure.
And he's just like a dirtbag looking, like he's
dirty looking dude. Dirty dude. My unsung hero. Well, you went Brandon Marsh. I mean, even though you're picking the Astros, that's
I know. Okay, so
move.
if you look at the Astros, my options are limited to Maldonado and Chas McCormick, and Chas McCormick is
everybody else is a star,
burning every bridge he has in Philly. I'm getting all these messages from Philly guys. They're like, "Yo, that's one of us. We're not ready for him to ruin us," but they think he is. They say Chas McCormick, Philly guy, diehard Philly fan, coming back to ruin his boys back home in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Okay. My unsung hero. I'm gonna go Gene Segura.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got a knack. A lot of guys out. He doesn't.
Yeah, he's got a knack for those moments. It could be a guy in second base, 2 outs. You got fucking Brian Abreu on the mound throwing 100 with a nasty slider, and he just shoots something to the gap. Scores the go-ahead run. I could see something like that happen.
I like that. Do you think there's any pitchers that were not like? Do you see any guys in the bullpen making some kind of like incredible perform? Are there any guys you think could get stretched to 3 innings? Like, do we see Brogdon come in and do like 4 scoreless in a game where Ranger Suarez, has a blister or something?
I don't think so. I don't think we see that. If there could be a situation in this series where they're not going to burn some of their high leverage guys, and maybe Brogdon or Bilotti needs to come in, or Syndergaard, to give them extended innings, and maybe just get through the end of the game. Say it's 8-1 and it's the fifth inning, you're not going to bring in your 3 or 4 heavy hitters. You're going to go to a guy like Brogdon, Bilotti, Falter, or Syndergaard, maybe even Eflin. You never know what's going to happen. But I think that's unlikely. I think it's unlikely.
Would be
I
cool to
don't. I
see
don't want to
Eflin
see.
do like 5 out of the bullpen, though. It would be cool because he
It
has that
would.
in him.
It would, and the Phillies are. They've had some dramatic come from behind wins. They're not scared of that. So that would, there would be, I bet there is a situation where they need somebody to come in and just kind of bridge the gap and just keep the score where it is. But, in my opinion, if you have to have Brogdon or Bilotti come in and give you 3 or 4 innings, I don't envision them putting up 3 or 4 zeros. I think that the Astros will continue to chip away and score runs off those guys.
I don't want to throw shade at anybody on any of these teams, but if I could swap one player from the Phillies where I'm like, man, you really more fit the Astros. Like if you were on the Astros, that would be awesome. And one guy for the Phillies, I'm like, or on the Astros, I'd love to see on the Phillies. I'd love to see JT Realmuto be the catcher for the Astros and what that team would look like. Because it seems to me every year the Astros are like, we'll do everything, and then the catcher can just be a guy who's good at framing. Like we just love framing. So then if you bring in a guy like JT, and then the other side, and Ballman's been amazing this year, but Bregman, that infield, if you had Bregman in that Phillies lineup, just hang out with Schwarber and Harper and Cass, I feel like those guys would just sit around and just eat fastballs all day.
Yeah, they would have won 100 games probably with him in the lineup.
Bregman in this World Series, this is exactly where he belongs. Just a quick background bio on the guy. The story of him coming out of New Mexico in high school, he was allegedly a top round pick, second, third, and made it very clear as an undersized guy who was playing middle infield for Team USA. If you're not drafting me in the first round, don't draft me. I do not want to play professional baseball until I'm drafted in the first round. I want to be a team's first round pick. That's what he wanted. So he goes to LSU and he's like there his freshman year, and the coach had to give him keys within the first couple of weeks there. He's like, we can't, you're just there too much. Here's just keys, do whatever you want. And he would be out there, turn the lights on, and just hit BP on the open field every single night. He is as much of a position player rat. He's as much of like a baseball rat junkie, loves it. And when he came out of LSU, was just such a slam dunk. If he was any bit taller or any bit bigger, he would have been talked about as one of the greatest college prospects to come out. But it isn't. That isn't the case. Now you see him 28, 29 years old, one of the most prolific, postseason resumes, just a guy who's just a total, to me, when I look at both teams, if there's one player I admire the most about the way they play the game day in, day out, every single little thing they do well, it's Alex Bregman. And I know there's more punch and power and thunder and all that stuff, but even though we have the best players in the world under the biggest stage right now, I do think Bregman, to me, if I could pick, he just stands out. He's just a fucking dog, man.
That's a great call. That's a great call. Yeah, and I love that story about how he was telling teams, "Don't pick me unless you're taking me in the first round." He was, what was he drafted in, like the 25th round or somewhere late, out of high school, and then went to LSU, did his thing, and then he's number 2 overall. So, yeah, he's a championship caliber player. He's going to have a big series, man. I mean, I wish it was Friday today, man. I can't wait to watch this shit.
No shit, dude. And for a lot of guys at home, I know we've talked about this time and again. We got some stuff coming up here with Whatnot. If you haven't heard of Whatnot, it's a live stream auction app where you can buy collectibles, comics, and really almost anything else. They bring businesses and people together through commerce where sellers can host live streams and engaged connoisseurs like yourselves can bid in real time. Live streams happening 24/7. You guys never know what you're going to discover. And now Barstool is Whatnot's newest seller. We go on live on Whatnot, running live shows and sell never be seen auction items and Whatnot exclusives. We talked about piles before, boxes. Give us some time in the postseason. If you're not dialed in, get the app now. Create a Whatnot account using the link in the description of this podcast. Get $10 off your first purchase on Whatnot. We got Coach Doug's breaking stuff left and right. We're going to make sure you guys follow the Barstool Sports page. Get alerted whenever we're going live. It's a nice promo because there's content involved in that. You guys, if you guys are fans of the live stream, the auction game, get into Whatnot. Create a Whatnot account. Use the link in the description. Get $10 off your first purchase. Nice little promo here. Just a couple stats here I want to wrap up. We got busy stuff here, guys. This is World Series week. We got to get fucking focused. We got a big stream coming up Friday night. Huge stream.
What
Huge.
stats you got? Let's talk stats.
7 games, Astros pitchers have held opponents this postseason to a 178, 248, 299 line in 33 innings. So that's like the whole pitching staff. But in 33 innings, Astros relievers have allowed just 2 runs, 0.55 ERA on 14 hits, 10 walks. They've struck out 42. It's the talent that's in the bullpen. It's also just the knowledge of the matchup. And the Astros seem that they get these things right all the time. They've got the bullpen. It would be a waste of time for us to go through all of the names that can make an impact. I was going to do like a thing on Christian Javier. There isn't enough time in the day to talk about how good and deep that bullpen runs. And the Astros, it's the difference at some level has to be the way they match these guys up.
Yeah, well, the luxury they have is that we've seen them go to Montero in certain spots instead of Abreu or instead of Presley in the regular season. Also, I think, and we've talked about it before, but the advantage and the edge that the Astros have, in my opinion, is the depth of their bullpen. I think that's really the separator in the series. The fact that Neris has kind of turned himself around and become a guy that they can trust and have faith in. Brian Abreu is turning into a guy that you can put in the highest leverage situations and you feel confident and comfortable with him being able to get the job done. Montero, what he's done. And then you have Urquidy and you have Luis Garcia just kind of hanging out, ready to the guys that can give you middle innings, like whenever you need them. It's just amazing. And I go back to that 18-inning game that they had against Seattle. They had a couple more pitchers. Urquidy didn't even throw, and he could have given them another 5 or 6 innings. Luis Garcia goes out there and gives up no hits in 5 innings and basically wins the game for him. So the depth is probably something like we've never seen from top to bottom. I think that it's probably the most balanced and deepest bullpen in all of baseball. And in baseball, and as far back as I can remember, and they don't have, what's unique is they don't have a lefty down there, do they? I don't think they have a left-handed guy in the bullpen, and you don't need him. That's the beauty of it. They don't need it. These guys can get righties out, lefties out, have great breaking stuff, great velocity, and command. And then to back it up, just to top it off, you got a closer in Presley who's got 4 pitches that he commands, throws in any count. It's frustrating when say it's a 1-run game, you're coming up to bat in the 9th inning, and you got to face a guy that's got 4 pitches. It's not just fastball split.
I'm like, I have his fucking Fangraphs page pulled up. I'm ready to say.
Yeah,
the 9th inning when you need to hit a home run off a guy. Damn, Jake,
when you need a homer, you don't. I mean, what you're getting is a nasty curveball, a cutter on the corners, a fastball that's got life, and a changeup. So when you need damage from behind with 3 outs to go, that's not a guy that's going to give up much damage. I can tell you that.
230 batters faces here. He's given up 2 home runs. So, yeah. I mean, just hit the nail right on the head, because when you're coming in against it, watching him pitch, completely different stuff. But Houston Street was that guy who would come in with 4 or 5 pitches, pitch out of the windup, closer, pitch out of the windup, crazy stuff. Yeah, great points. I could not have gone through the Astros bullpen. There's just so much I want to say. So thank you for getting that succinctly, because Garcia.
Yeah, it's just a guy. It's a group. Yeah, it's just a group that's so fun to follow and so fun to watch. It's like, oh, they're going to Brian Abreu. Oh, now you got Neris. Now you got Urquidy or Luis Garcia or Montero or Javier, whoever it is. Like, you don't really want to face any of them. And you can't say that about any other bullpen in the game.
We also get a World Series where I am thrilled with either manager winning. Same thing last year. Snicker, he brought the Braves back. Wagon dynasty, lifer in the game. Now in this case, like if Rob Thompson wins it, that's a great story, just a phenomenal story. And if Dusty Baker wins it, I think this is his 25th or 26th year managing. But he's got like twice as many postseason games as any manager. And that was in the postseason this year, and if you take out Tito Francona, it goes up to like 7 times as many games. So loaded stuff here. Big World Series. We're gonna be streaming on Friday. We're gonna have some guests for that again. Big football game for Cooper this weekend too.
Last game of the season. Yep. And then, we jump right into baseball practice. We don't quit.
Anything out there, guys.
No, we
What's
don't
the quote
quit.
from Waterboy? It's the last game of the year, guys. We know. Okay. Anything else?
I'm gonna keep diving into the series, but I think we got it covered, man. It's time to go. It's time to play. I know that the Phillies are flying to Houston this afternoon. That'll be a fun flight for them. I know all these boys are extremely excited. I hit a couple of them up. I'm like, hey, you guys want to play golf in Houston? You need a course? Let me know. I don't think any of them are gonna play. I was a little disappointed by that. I'm like, come on, boys. The weather it's going to be 75 degrees. You want to play Whispering Pines, Houston Oaks. Like, what do you want to do? Lochinvar. But they said no. They turned me down. I get it. That's all right. They're focused.
Did you play golf in 16?
Yeah. Play golf. We didn't play. We didn't play in Cleveland because of how cold it was. But if I was in Houston, I'd definitely be playing golf.
Good luck. Thank you to everybody tuning in. We got more content coming as the World Series gets going. Subscribe to the page. Share the show with some friends. Until next time, we'll be back on Friday night live. Tune into the stream. The streams are outstanding.
It's going to be a great stream.
Live.
Yeah, I'm going to get my setup done. We just got couches downstairs. So I'm going to be I'm going to be so cozy in this new couch. Probably have some food catered. I need to figure out what I'm going to be drinking. A couple cocktails with the boys. I'll probably have some friends in the house. It's going to be good shit, man. Yeah, nice show. And like Carl said, appreciate you guys listening. Like and subscribe if you like the show, which we know you do.
We'll see you guys on Friday night.